Well, hello and good morning. We have made it through to Friday. We've made it through another week. And for our Bible reading today, we are reading 1 Samuel chapter 23, start to finish. And so what happens in this chapter is that we start with David hearing that a town or city of Keilah is under attack from the Philistines. And so he goes and he asks God, should we go? Should we go and rescue Keilah? And God says yes. And then David's men say, but no, we're really scared. And so David goes back to God and says, shall we go and rescue Keilah? And God says, yes, I will give the city and the Philistines into your hands. And so off they go and they rescue Keilah. And then Saul hears that David is in Keilah. And Saul's like, yes, this city only has one door, so I've got David trapped. So again, David goes to the Lord and says, Lord, will I be safe? Will these people hand me over to Saul? And God says, yes, they will. And so David escapes again, this time into the wilderness of Ziph. And Jonathan comes for a visit and reaffirms his friendship with David. They make a covenant together, and then Jonathan goes home. And then Saul hears from some Ziphites, some of the people of Ziph, that David is in the wilderness of Ziph. They tell Saul exactly where David is. And then Saul sends the people back home, asking them to spy on David, to work out where he is, and to keep Saul informed. And so there's a real difference here between how Saul is behaving and how David is behaving. David, at every step, asks God what he should do. At every step of the way, he seeks the guidance of God. He seeks to follow in God's ways, to follow in God's path, and to walk in God's will for him. Whereas Saul, on the other hand, is relying entirely on his own cunning and his own resources and people around him. He's relying on spies to find out what's going on. And so there's a real contrast there in the way they're behaving. And the outcome of this is that we see that Saul gets thwarted time and time again. David escapes time and time again. Even when David and Saul are on opposite sides of the same mountain, David still escapes. And Saul has to go off and fight another war. David gets away. And so for us, I wonder if we are relying on our own resources and our own wisdom, or if we're asking God what's next. It's easier often, or at least seems easier in the first instance, to rely on our own resources because they're really tangible and we can see what we're doing and we can rely on our own effort and our own strength. But even in the midst of a stressful situation, because David is on the run, he doesn't have anywhere to settle, he doesn't have anywhere to call home, he's trying to stay one step ahead of a powerful king who wants to kill him. So even in the midst of a high stress situation, David continues to ask God what's next. So for us, let's see if we can try that. Let's try and ask God what's next. In this tricky situation at work, what's next? In dealing with a pandemic, what's next? In dealing with a sudden diagnosis, in coping with our mental health and well-being, in coping with schooling, looking after our kids, in dealing with an estranged relationship. God, what's next? God, what would you have me do? God, what is your heart for this situation? Let's be people who go to God first. So I pray that you have a really great weekend, and for next week I am handing us over into the capable hands of Jeff. So I will see you on the other side. Bye.